Hi, we're here with MMO Champion, and we're here with Steve.
Hi. Steve Burke.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
And we're going to ask you some questions about some of the announcements that were made yesterday at the opening ceremonies for Blizzcon for the future of World of Warcraft, specifically classic servers. I think a lot of people are excited about, as well as the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth.
Great.
So we'll get started with some questions about classic, because that seems to be the one that has the most ephemeralness to it. Everyone wants to find out what they can. When did you decide that there would be enough support to go ahead and do Classic as a server option?
That's a great question. I have been involved in some of the discussions, but not all. I can't pinpoint a certain spot, but I know that internally there's always been a huge desire for this kind of thing. We're all very excited for it. And then obviously there's enough external, something that we consider. It's just a monumental task. So it just was a matter of deciding, this is something we're going to embrace and do. And I'm super excited that we're doing it.
It's amazing. A lot of people are very excited for it. Are you planning on kind of keeping the products bundled together? Are they going to be using the same clients? Are you going to basically be able to, with your normal subscription, play both? Will they interplay each other? Or are you trying to keep them as kind of separate products?
Those are fantastic questions, and we don't even know yet. I mean, it's super, super early. We've still got a lot of work to do just to figure out how much work there is to make this happen. But we are committed.
Doing the work to figure out how much work you have to do.
That is it.
There's a lot of talk about certain mechanics about vanilla. I mean, there are even some comments made a couple years ago when people would ask about vanilla of it might not be fun anymore. Like going back, we had years of innovation. There's lots of progress that's been made. You guys have been at the forefront of innovation in the MMO genre for the last 15 years. So what things are you specifically worried about? Or like, is there anything you pinpointed that you're like, okay, this mechanic, we're not doing this. We're not going to bring this over to vanilla. This was so unfun. We don't want to do it. Or is it something where there are no holds barred? You're considering everything.
Super good question. I know that the spirit of what we're trying to do is to recreate that vanilla experience as it was.
Right.
Beyond that, again, it's one of those too early. Right. There's a lot of questions in there to answer. Right. Which Ubers do we do? 5 man, 10 man?
Right.
Things like that. It's still premature.
Is there anything in particular that sticks out to you as your kind of thing that you love that was kind of hard to do, or maybe like would be considered unfun by today's standards that you personally enjoyed doing? Were you the paladin that was buffing everyone for 40 minutes in the raid?
I remember so many things that I'm not sure would be fun anymore, but that would be nostalgic.
Right, exactly.
Farming for elixirs, all those things, right?
I mean, particularly, I think I'm excited about the leveling experience being a little bit longer and a bit more grueling, I guess, because there's a reason why now you want to speed it up and you want to get involved and you want to get a character up to the level that everyone is at currently. But there's also a lot of fun in the slow progress and going through your old zones at a slow pace. I'm excited for that. An interesting question, and once again, it's probably a situation where it's all still up in the air, but when it comes to the way you'll be doing progression and patching, what thoughts have been made or considerations have been made there? Is the plan to keep it vanilla forever, or is the plan to have slow progression, or what's the idea there?
Another great question that is just,
too early.
Sorry, way too early. I'm sorry, with classic servers, it's one of those that we are all very passionate about. I was as excited as anybody to hear that we're doing it, but details
It's totally fine. We'll switch gears here. We'll talk about the new expansion. Will the new artifact be spec agnostic when it's powered up, or do you have to, similar to the way that artifact weapons work now, there's one different for each spec that you do separately, and you're able to choose one each kind of your side weapon and put artifact power into it separately and upgrade it. Is it going to be, you have to power it in for spec, or is it just going to kind of work across your class?
Heart of Azeroth is going to be the medallion, right? Okay. And you're going to level it up with Azerite that you gain, all the different mechanics in the world. And it's how you spend that is going to be up to you with the items that you get. So it's going to work on, right now we're saying 3 pieces, your helmet, your chest piece, and your shoulders. And each drop that you get from those items, you'll be able to look at and say, oh, this is with the amount of, with the level of my Heart of Azeroth, I'm going to be able to accomplish these things with this item. Is that better than what I'm wearing?
Okay, so
you're going to be able to make those interesting choices on that.
So the Heart of Azeroth is almost going to work as like a prerequisite to be able to get certain types of gear, or to be able to work on certain types of gear?
You'll be able to get them. You just won't be able to unlock their potential until you'll get that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Legendary items were a very played a big role in Legion, a very large role in Legion. Are you going to be returning with the idea of class legendaries? If so,
we're going to retire the legendaries in a very epic way.
Okay.
Nothing that I'm ready to talk about today, but I think that people will be satisfied with that. So we learned a lot with it. We had fun with it. We think that it was a good system, and there are elements of that that are definitely worth carrying forward. And we will be bringing some of those forward and turning the dials as we need to.
It's actually a funny story. I got the Shadow Priest Legendary Belt, the Mongaza's Madness, the one that increases your Mind Bless count, which is the best one for Shadow Priest, the day before my wedding. I had like 15 minutes off. I'm like, I'm going to do my dailies. I'm going to go in and check things out. I hadn't got a legendary yet. This was over a year ago.
So how long did you postpone the wedding?
I still had to go and go. I'll be able to use this when I get back, guys. Sorry. But it was nice. It feels good. There's something about getting legendaries that every WoW player just loves.
Yes.
How are you going to be translating that into the new expansion? How will legendaries work for Battle for Azeroth?
Oh, that's a great question. So that is another one of those systems that we're really happy with, but always looking at and still turning it down. So I don't have anything to announce today other than, it's something that we're looking at and the mad scientists.
Were you happy with how the Titan Forge system worked with the legendaries for last expansion? Is that something that you'd be thinking about doing similarly?
I don't have any news to break on that. I don't work directly with the system guys. I talk to them really regularly. I'm going to ask them that specific question.
Okay. A lot of people are really excited for the new allied races options that are coming.
Yes.
I'm super excited personally. And one of the things that came along with that was the idea of heritage armor.
Yes.
So for when it comes to heritage armor, are there going to be heritage armor for the currently existing races of Azeroth, or will those only apply to the new races that people...
Today, those are for the new races. Okay. And once you unlock that race, the way that works is each one of the allied races starts at level 20.
Okay.
You level them up through the world, which is now scaling. I don't know what Okay. So we've improved that experience. And if you level one of those up from level 20 to max level, then you unlock the heritage armor.
Great.
That's awesome.
Will you be able to transmog that armor for other races, or is it race specific?
Exclusive to that race.
Exclusive to that race. When it comes to Warfronts, I think there's a big change in terms of how PvP is being imagined for this expansion. How are rewards going to be done for these Warfronts?
That's a good question. So it's probably safe to say that Azerite is going to play a part in the rewards. The rest, that's still something that we're cooking up. Okay. In Warfronts, they're already fun. We're still turning the dials and making it an even more polished experience. But we're focused first on the PvE aspect of it and dialing that in, and I think the PvP will follow.
Gotcha. You talked a lot about the new AI and the progressions that have been made when it comes to that. Yes. Will we be able to? How will we see that? How will we experience it? Will it take place in places like dungeons, or is it just going to be strictly in?
Right now, we're focused on it in islands, in Warfronts. Okay. And it will be noticeable. It's you will have characters that you probably really don't like, and you won't be happy to see. One of the things about islands that's really fun is you play a dungeon, you kind of get it down, you know exactly which trash to pull and what the most efficient.
You know where you can skip, you know where you can jump off.
Exactly. Yeah. With islands, one of the things that I'm most excited about is even though the geography might be the same, the geometry might be the same, the foes that you're going to face there might be different every time. The actual the things that you're going to be doing, the smart thing to do today, right now, in this position, might be different than what it was the last time we ran this. So it's going to be a lot more dynamic.
Gotcha. So the idea of kind of to keep the content interesting throughout. Will you be making change to that as the expansion goes, or is it the idea that you're kind of going to set it and it's going to the system to keep it refreshing is always going to be there, or is there going to be constant updates to how each dungeon is ran or each warfront is managed that way?
Right. Well, we're going to build it so that replayability is built into it, like any system with Warcraft. We're going to look at it. We're going to turn the dials all the way up to launch, and then beyond launch, we look at it and make whatever changes are necessary.
Makes sense. Mark of the Wild, specifically, as well as some other popular raid buffs that a lot of people miss. Things like, I guess, Power Word Fortitude. Are those things going to be coming back? I know they were part of kind of the ability pruning era, where we wanted to make sure that everything, where classes felt unique but not bloated with 4 bars worth of abilities that you only use in certain situations. Are a lot of those going to be coming back, or is it just specific to certain?
We've been playing with them, and in the playtesting that I've been doing, they are present and they're fun. Mm-hmm. We're excited about them. We look at every expansion. We look at the classes and look at what we feel needs to be done to make them more fun and to bring them where we want them to be and raid buffs again, or something we like.
I feel like raid buffs are almost oxymoronic in the idea that they feel passive and it's just a button you push, so you think, oh, that's not very fun. But it's actually just one of those weird things that, as certain types of players, I think they enjoy, like the idea of empowerment. There's a reason why people play supports in MOBAs. Some people like that idea. Even if that's not even your role, the idea of like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm helping you out, I'm empowering you, I think is something that, even if it's not terribly active, people still enjoy the feel. So
totally agree.
When it comes to, you're talking about scaling content, how you're doing some stuff in the old world for Azeroth, is there going to be any max level content that you're going to be adding to the old world?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I know we're introducing a new Time Walking Dungeon, right? Which probably doesn't directly answer your question. But no, we're really focused, I think, on the new continents. Now we've got 2 brand new continents that you get to level up in, and then at max level, I think one of the great things about this expansion, we're giving you 3 zones to level up in, and then we're opening up the other 3 to you, so it's going to be brand new places to explore. So
gotcha. How is that going to work? So, so if I'm Horde, I'm starting on Zandalar,
right,
and I finish leveling there,
right,
and then I go to Kulturas, correct? Or how is that?
Then both open up.
Then both open up. So is it going to be something where your leveling experience is like phased within Zandalar, and then once you finish your story of leveling, then the rest of the world opens up? Or?
We still use phasing, but we're really careful about using. We still want it to be an MMO. You're still working and playing around with your friends. So the idea is that with the scaling world, then we don't really have to, right? Everything is still viable at max level. And so just like we did at Legion, we'll be able to use all of Zandalar and all of the enemies.
So if I'm level 110, just starting the expansion, let's say I started playing a week late, am I going to be running into Alliance players at max level on Zandalar? Is that how that's going to work? Okay, that makes sense. Will players be able to level a character to take advantage of allied races, or will there be like another option in order to take advantage of the allied races?
To unlock them?
Yes.
Right, so each allied race will have some content associated with its unlock, right?
Okay.
We'll take Nightborn, for example. We just put all that content into Suramar. There's plenty, we probably would require that you do that campaign in order to access them, and maybe some more things. They're not going to be cookie cutter. It's not going to be the same for every race. We're going to kind of customize for each one.
So it's kind of like that starter zone experience again.
In a sense, right? You're going to unlock that with a present day character, and then you're going to basically invite that race into the fold and build up your side of the war. So once they're unlocked, then you'll be able to either create a new one, like we talked about before, start at level 20 and work your way up. You'll be able to boost one all the way up. You won't be eligible then for the Heritage Army. You'll be able to boost one up, or you'll be able to actually race change it.
So we're talking about starting at level 20. So I'm sorry, I was a little bit confused. I was thinking they were going to be starting in like their home area, but that might not necessarily make sense. Obviously, at level 20. If I'm High Mountain Tauren, where am I starting at level 20? Like, where
Today's plan is that if you're Horde, you'll start in Orgrimmar and Alliances.
Are there any new race and class combinations incoming? There's not that many restrictions anymore.
There's not a lot, but it's still something that's important to us, right? We don't want to just say anybody can be anything. We still want it to kind of to fit a kit and make sure that it works with that way. So I don't have anything to announce on that front. It's something that we're not ruling out, but we look at it pretty closely.
We saw High Mountain Tauren and Lightforged Draenei racials. Can you tell us about any of the other racials for the new allied races?
I know that they're all going to have unique racials. I also know that that's one of those things that we're going to be tweaking up until the end.
Gotcha. Are you going to be doing any tinkering with existing races racials, or are you pretty happy with where they're at?
I wouldn't rule it out. But it's not. I don't have anything new.
Expanding from Warlords even into Legion, there's kind of an evolution of the war table and missions ideas, going from garrisons to the way that your class hall missions were ran. Are you going to be expanding that gameplay mechanic? Are you going to be doing anything with that? Will we be working with recruits and sending them out on missions in a similar way as
we do like the follower system. I think we're going to carry that forward in some form. We're still building the world, and one of the nice things about this expansion in particular, we're really happy with how systems like Warcraft work, right? And so now we're building that content from the ground up to facilitate that. So we know now a lot more than we did. With Legion, World Quest came online late in the expansion, so we had already built most of the content. Now we know, okay, we like World Quest. We've got some ideas about how they can be better, and keeping those in mind as we're building the content, as we're actually designing the world.
So it feels a little more natural.
Yeah, and we're going to be playing to those strengths.
Are there any plans, specifically with kind of the focus coming back on World PvP in Battle for Azeroth? How will flying be treated? Will it be treated in a very similar way as it was in Legion, that there became a couple of patches? It would be a very long, like, relatively grueling journey to get it and unlock it. Were you happy with that system? Is that something you'd be expecting to bring on?
It's a great question, and we're happy with it being something that you do have to do some work to unlock, for sure. That you've completed the content to a certain degree, right? Whether or not that moves in different ways, I'm sure there'll be some small adjustments, but we are happy with how that plays out. We feel that it's important that when you're going through the content, especially for that first time, that you are experiencing the world that we've got.
But you do. There does absolutely plan on being flying in the expansion at some point, just towards the end. Is there any more you can share about stat squishing in terms of what your plans are? It kind of happens every several years. The numbers get really large, kind of unwieldy. So do you have any more to share about plans on reining that in or making changes?
They are doing another. We are doing another stat squish for Battle for Azeroth, and I just know. Really, just the overall philosophy is just keeping those numbers manageable.
Right.
You know, we look at the combat times and how long it takes to kill the average mob, and we want to keep that feeling right. But keeping the numbers to where they're not just crazy.
How much of a process is that when like having to go back and rescale even like old content to make sure it doesn't get ridiculous in terms of like because obviously you can't change. People like we're doing their transmog runs. So if you squish everything down and then all of a sudden they can't beat content that was released 2 expansions ago, they're not going to be happy. So how much work actually goes into scaling everything down? And is it fine-tuned, or is it something where we're squishing everything by 80%, so we're going to squish everything else by 80%? Because obviously it doesn't always work quite so one-to-one.
Yeah. Very, very observant. Very good point. And I'm not the one that does that work, and I'm very I'm sure it's a pretty big task, but we've got a lot of guys that love thinking in that space, and that are really good at what they do, thankfully.
Great. Is the professions rank system from Legion going to be carried over to the next expansion?
I know that we are. One of the things that we're definitely going to embrace is that we've got content for professionals like we did last time. Maybe not quite as many quests. Some of them were a little bit long.
I enjoyed mine.
But I can't answer definitively. I know that they're still turning some dials. Talk specifically with the professional guys, mostly in terms of the content that we want to support them with. That's one of those things. It's one of those systems that they're always looking at right up to the end. We may have made, if we haven't made any announcements on the floor.
Gotcha. When it comes to, again, going for professions, are there any more upgrades or updates coming for changes to professions other than the obvious new recipes that always get added in with the expansions?
New recipes. I know they're doing some interesting and exciting stuff with the way that we're working the head and chest and shoulder pieces toward the heart of Azeroth. But even that, the specifics I can't really get into.
Gotcha. Are there any plans to address faction balance on realms, specifically like population faction balance?
Yeah.
When it comes to world PvP on realms?
So did you hear, I think it was Ian that talked about the new PvP approach for PvP servers? So I think that that's one of the things that we're doing to issue that problem, or to address that problem, is that when you opt into PvP, that maybe we'll CRZ you into a realm where it's a little bit more balanced.
Okay, so the idea is going to be you have that kind of clustering of certain realms, because I think in the past I may be mistaken, but for certain areas, if there were low population servers, they'd be kind of grouped together in certain content pieces or stuff to make sure there was enough people there.
Exactly.
So it's similar idea.
Using that tech, right? So when you do flip that flag, we can look at that tech and put you in a place that will be more competitive.
So the hope is that you're never going to be, a single horde player having to deal against the onslaught of 90 alliance members on your server.
That sounds kind of fun. That's the hope.
Maybe for some people.
Right.
All right. Well, I think we're great. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
That was great.